Welcome back to Clydesdale Media, where we bring you the best from the world of CrossFit. Podcasts, news, special interest, health, fitness. If you like what you hear, hit that subscribe button, hit the notifier so you're the first to know when we have new episodes. Sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. Good morning, everybody, and welcome back to the Clydesdale Media Podcast. My name is Scott Schweitzer. I'm the Clydesdale. She is Kat Shear, getting ready for Wodapalooza already with the shades on. And we have Dylan Malitsky, CrossFit OG legend, MC, VP, all the stuff. And we're going to talk to him today. So, Dylan, what's going on?
Not much. A beautiful sunny day here in Miami, actually. So those shades would come in handy.
I love how you say not much.
Yeah,
not
I know, right? Isn't that what you're supposed to say? Even when
Come on.
Figurative crap is hitting the fan.
You're what? T-minus how many days?
The number. So we start loading in about 5 days. But yeah, the event itself starts January 12th. So I guess we're 14 days away from day number 1, Thursday at Waza. It's coming up here quick.
My first one. I can't wait.
You've never been to Wodapalooza?
Never.
Scott, you have.
Yes. Does she even CrossFit?
I haven't been to Waza at least once. No, sorry.
Nope. I'm a virgin. I can't wait.
Haven't heard yet.
Well, let's start there. Actually, I have to admit, last year was my first. And I, after being there, I was like, I'm never missing another one.
That's a great thing to hear. Yeah, it's an unreal experience for someone that hasn't been there. It's very tough to put it into context, the magnitude, sort of the environment. I'm sure that you feel the same way, right? You have no idea what to expect. And it's hard. We try so hard in our media to portray what the experience beyond just the competition is like, what we call the Waza experience outside the ropes. But I'm sure you can probably explain it better than most, Scott, with your background of going to different events. What was different for you about Wodapalooza last year than what you've been at, what you've experienced at other types of CrossFit events?
I describe it as the CrossFit family reunion.
That's a great way to see it.
Because you see everyone because if I go to semifinals, I see this group of people. And then I go to this semifinal, I see this group of people. The games, you really don't see a whole lot because you're just running from place to place. Miami, it's laid back, grab a cup of coffee, stroll through Vendor Village, and you will see 75 people in one walkthrough that you know and want to catch up with.
So funny. You're 100% right. I wish I could speak to the laid back part that I
was going to say. You're not
coffee.
Cruising through Vendor Village.
But I'm going to live vicariously through you and all the other people I speak to that have said similar things. I agree. It's funny. We actually, the way that I've always compared it to the CrossFit Games, for example, the CrossFit Games is the Super Bowl. It's the World Championship. Whereas I consider Wodapalooza more of like All-Star Weekend.
Yeah, the Pro Bowl.
Pro Bowl. Like it's a whole festival environment. There's just so much to do beyond just watching the competition, but you also still have the best of the best competing. In addition to everybody and their mothers, the 99% also getting to showcase their fitness that one time a year, many of which they actually put it on their calendar as their CrossFit Games of the year for those average Joes, if you will.
Yeah. And beyond that, even anybody who just wants to sign up for the gauntlet. Yeah. So you have the real competition in all the divisions. And then you have hey, let's just go see what happens when I sign up for this thing.
Well, it's amazing. Are you competing, Scott? Are you or Kat doing the gauntlet this year? And if you're not, I want your commitment right now. I'll get you guys a spot. It's only an hour.
What is it? Tell me more.
Sure.
I could be convinced.
Scott, are you
What's
in?
That?
I thought we almost just had a commitment from you before I went down the rabbit hole of giving you guys the rundown.
I need more information.
I would prefer to have your commitment before I tell you a little more about what it is.
So I'll do it. I'm in. I will do it at a scaled version.
Perfect. Well, there's 3 divisions. We have scaled, intermediate, and RX. So a few years ago, first of all, let's go back to like Wodapalooza at its core was meant to be the most inclusive event out there. That was like its main ethos year one. We wanted to showcase as many athletes, not just because we wanted to pack athletes in, but because we wanted to show them an elite level experience for not just the elite, but the average Joe. So, as the event's gotten bigger and bigger, it's become harder and harder to host as many people as we'd like. We, instead of growing and adding more and more athletes to competing over the 3 days, we still wanted to make it inclusive. And so we came up with this concept for a style of competition that would still cast a wider net and allow more people the experience of competing on a big stage like Wodapalooza. And so essentially, we think it's very rightfully named the Gauntlet, because you go through the gauntlet. It is an hour long, 3 stations back to back to back with 5 different workouts. So definitely inspired by the Sherwood Monster Mash. If you guys have ever seen those, I used to love doing those, which is really where it came from. So on Thursday, all day, Flagler before the elite get there in the evening, because the elite individuals will compete on Thursday as they have in years past. We're going to have, an hour-long gauntlet. So the workouts have all been released. They're on our social, 5 back-to-back-to-back. And then the top 10 in each division, scaled, intermediate, RX, male and female, will qualify to compete again on Saturday, a whole new set of workouts on Flagler again. But again, if you're one of those people that isn't prepared to commit to the 3 days of Friday, Saturday, Sunday competition, not wanting to beat your body up, or not, can't be there the whole weekend, you're a local Miami person, or you want to enjoy what Miami has to offer rather than committing to being at Bayfront Park all weekend, or you're not at that level of competition and you just want to get a taste, or you weren't able to qualify via the online challenger qualifier, the Gauntlet is a chance for you to still get an opportunity to step out on Flagler, the main competition floor at Wodapalooza, and test your luck and see where you're at from a fitness perspective.
I love it.
And you have released some of the workout.
All of them.
Yeah, for the qualifiers, yeah, they're all up. So the 5 are up. The last one was posted yesterday.
So count me in.
Cat, you as well.
Well, I need to document this. So unless you're going to provide us with a cameraman, I'm gonna have to be the documenter.
Oh, Cat's trying to get out.
I'll wear a GoPro.
Done. I just took a note that I'm getting you guys a code here. So Scott and Cat in. Check out the workouts. Let me know what you think, but you're still committed. So I'm excited. That's great. You guys will, I think that'll be a really good experience for the both of you. You'll have fun. It's a lot of fun. Justin Medeiros is doing it alongside his manager and friend, Daniel Robbins. We have like some of the U.S. Army Warrior Fitness team doing it among some others. There's a few other celebs that haven't like officially committed, but I'm sure they'll be out there too. So you'll get to throw down alongside them.
Nice.
Okay. Yeah.
So what we're doing on Tuesday or Thursday.
Only an hour of your day. So you got the rest free. Don't worry.
Yeah. Okay. Awesome. We have the Gauntlet. We were in the middle of Wodapalooza. Anything new this year from last year? Because this is your first time kind of running the ship.
Yeah. I mean, look, I wouldn't consider myself running. I mean, Matt O'Keefe, one of my closest friends, like I've known him for years and years and years, and honestly a mentor, and he was running the sports division, which is much more than just Wodapalooza. We incorporated his athlete management business. That was part of Loud and Live. We're also doing marketing services for brands. But as far as the event's concerned, we have a really good team. I wouldn't say that I'm like stewarding or leading the ship necessarily. I'm part of a leadership team here at Loud and Live that's producing it. But the biggest changes, and some of them I was very nervous to lead the charge on. One of them was the change of the elite competition format. So we understand that the CrossFit Games season is very robust, and that's what's been positioned in our sport as being the test to find the fittest. That's like the primary season. We understand that Wodapalooza is an off-season event. And so I think it's been a lot over the years, and we've seen this trend for athletes to commit to competing over 4 days. So historically, the elite competition has run for individuals and teams Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. It's a huge commitment. And so the biggest change this year was actually modifying that format so that now individuals compete Thursday, Friday, and then now elite teams compete Saturday, Sunday. And in making that change, I was very concerned that, for one, we weren't going to have the level of commitment across those 2 divisions. And then Saturday and Sunday wouldn't be as exciting because you wouldn't have the same caliber of athlete competing. But our hope was that it would do the opposite, that athletes would commit to both. So now they have double the earning opportunity. That was one. The other hope was that, you'd have some athletes that historically wouldn't compete at all. God bless you, Scott. That wouldn't compete at all.
Thank you.
You're welcome. That actually ended up now signing up for individual or team. And now they can spend the rest of their weekend either on the front end or the back end hanging out. And so we've seen now I think arguably the best roster in Wodapalooza history. And maybe that's just not a direct correlate to the change in the way we've structured it, or just maybe just how much Wodapalooza has grown in popularity of the elite community. But it's going to be really exciting, not just for those folks, the elite folks, but also people that are either watching from home on the broadcast or coming to spectate. So that's probably the biggest change of the competition.
So you compared Wodapalooza to the Pro Bowl, right? Or the All-Star game, All-Star weekend.
The All-Star weekend. Yeah. Either or.
Yeah. So you have these 3-person teams that don't even exist in the regular season. And this year, the Pro Bowl football is changing. They're not playing a game anymore. It's going to be a skills competition.
That's cool. I didn't know that.
There's a really cool correlate to that. I don't know if anybody could have envisioned the super teams that you're going to get for this competition.
You're right. I didn't think it. I didn't know that we'd get the type of commitment that we have. It's funny though. I will say over the last couple of years, and part of the reason why we modified the structure is that we have seen a trend from people going, when it was 4 days for both divisions, people deciding to go team versus individual. It goes back to it being an off-season event, them not wanting to put too much pressure on themselves or needing to be in tip-top shape because they can rely on their teammates. And I will say the 3-person teams, from what I've heard from other people, is that I think other events are probably going to look to follow suit because it's incredible. The folks, I think it's easier to put together a team of 3 of the same gender than it is to put together a team of 2 and 2. So a few years ago when we were a sanctional event, we did follow that format. And I do think we saw a drop off in the participation from an elite team perspective and even a community team perspective. Again, it's just harder to find 4 folks than you and 2 of your buddies of the same gender. So I mean, when you look at the roster, if you go to our social media, Froning, who had just announced his retirements, I guess, again, maybe he doesn't look at this as anything too crazy. He's gonna be out there, which I'm very excited about. You've got the reigning and defending team champs in Noah, Travis, and Chandler. Noah, the hometown kid, one of my dear friends, and he's coming to stake his claim at the top spot again with his squad. But then you have this Canadian team, of the Brent and Pats of the world that are also going individual. So there's so many storylines within the storyline of it's going to be really fun to watch them go head to head. But what is going to be the impact of competing Thursday, Friday as individuals? Because you'd put them on paper as the favorites potentially. So that combined with a lot of the other female teams, like, it's a wild roster. It really is.
Well, and what I'm super excited about is Carrie Pierce coming out of retirement to go on a super team and be back on the competition floor in the first time in 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
And we announced yesterday she is committed to come to the podcast stage on our show Friday at 5. So we'll be talking to Carrie. We're not sure if it's just Carrie or the full team, but one or the other, we have that commitment for Friday at 5.
That's fun.
So super stoked about that.
Yeah, that's
a little
really
cross promotion.
Yeah, no, man. I think that's going to be really cool. I'm glad you guys are participating in that. I think that's a cool addition. We've had it as separate in the past, but now, right in the prime real estate. The idea was to create an environment. A few years ago, we talked about like a college game day-esque environment where you go and you're just listening. You've got your favorite personalities, and now there's a chance to have amplified sound out to the crowd, while also you have the correct equipment to be able to video and capture audio for your own show. So that'll be really cool to have Carrie on there. I'm interested to hear how she feels about what kind of shape she's in to be able to compete. But again, I think the format of only 2 days now lends itself to someone like her being able to step into the ring and feel just fine.
And maybe she's testing that out for a longer term comeback. I mean, there's an opening on the podium this year.
You're right. I'm really curious. I think you guys will be able to find out better than I will when she's on your show for sure.
We will bring.
Yeah, I have a feeling that she may be going team this year.
That'd be cool.
Do you have any hunch about who you think she'd be partnering with, or maybe you guys have some background info on that, or you think you want to wait and see?
No background info officially, nothing. But I think in that underdogs vein, there are some males who may want to go team instead of individual, and I'm sure they have a ton of females. So there's a lot to choose from.
Yeah. And there's also an opening in the podium for team this year.
True.
And I'm sure you have all talked extensively about Tia Now having a child, which really cool for her, the champ.
Yeah,
And
we're still not sure, Dylan, that she's not going to just show up at the games anyway and dominate. I mean,
I've
she
heard
could.
that. I've heard that from a bunch of people. That would be surprising. That would be super surprising. That'd be pretty wild to me.
She's still going to beat a shit ton of people in the open if she decides to participate. So it's all good.
True. Super true. And that team that has evolved from the HWPO crew with Mal, for example, who I'm sure a lot of people are now anointing as the potential her, or depending on what Annie does, if Annie goes individual, I think obviously those folks are in line to potentially take that spot. But that was another team that came out of the woodwork very, very late, the Mal, Kat and Annie team, which I'm super excited to see as well. That's the one that I think is going to give Carrie's team a run for their money.
Mm-hmm.
Don't forget about Miss Laura Horvat, who has been a 3-time podium finisher and has a super team of her own come into play.
Laura, who is Laura's team again? I'm sorry. There's so many teams, so much going on.
I know it's her and Gabby Magala.
Yeah.
And I can't remember who the third is, but it's not a slouch.
That would be a tough one to beat. Yeah, you can't count out Laura. Laura's another one that's in position to potentially take the podium spot. Yeah, she's I'm talking about it at the games, obviously. Yeah, you definitely cannot count her out. Yeah, that is a really solid squad. I think, is it Emma McQuade?
It is.
Wait, that's going to be a really tough team to beat. That's legit. That's super legit.
And the two greatest team athletes ever, Taylor Williamson and Andrea Nisler, teaming up with Sydney Mikulishin.
That is so true. And they don't get enough credit, right? Being on the team, you sort of like, they fall by, they just disappeared. People don't think of them as household names. You just think of the Mayhem team, right? When you think of those two. But I think that's another team that could very well win. You're right, because of their experience with team, comparatively speaking, to the others.
I am so stoked for that competition. I got to tell you, Dylan, I am more excited about that than the individual, and I'm so glad it's the weekend feature.
Yeah.
There was a lot of.
We're off on Saturday, which is cool. So we'll have a lot of time to watch.
Yeah, it is interesting though. It's that was another thing that when we decided on this format of individuals and then teams, the question was like, no, do we do teams and individuals? Then will people be too beat up for the individual competition at the end? Because people are most excited. It just seems historically about individuals. But when you look at the reception from the athletes, it seems like they're more excited about team. Like people are more leaning towards team in the offseason. So I do think it was the right pick for sure. But I want to pose the question back to you guys. Scott, you having been there last year, if you had to pinpoint one thing that you're most excited about coming back to Miami, and by the way, it doesn't have to just be about Wodapalooza. It can be something you experience offsite or just the culture, the weather. If you had to pick like one singular thing that you're most excited about, what would you say?
I'll answer that in a second, but correction, Jamie Simmons. It's not Emma.
Oh, you're right. Okay.
Emma is with Jacqueline Dahlstrom and Sola Sigurðardóttir.
True.
So I know that's not easy to say.
Sigurðardóttir.
So there you go.
So really, it's kind of what I already addressed. It is, I get to see all my friends and hang out in warm weather for 4 days.
Hopefully warm weather, Scott, because it was cold the last couple. Now it's hot and sunny, but
Dylan,
we had a spell. Sorry,
Dylan.
It'll be fine.
Dylan, we had -7 on Christmas Day with a wind chill of -35.
Oh.
If it's in the 40s, I'm in a Speedo.
You heard it here first.
While doing the gauntlet. Let's go.
While doing the gauntlet. Me and Sam Dancer side by side.
Yes. It's funny because I think that weather translated to us to be about like in the 50s or 60s here, because it was just a nationwide sweep. But yeah, it's starting to heat up now, and much better. So I'm glad, man. That's cool. And Kat, I know you haven't been there. I know you're probably just excited to experience the whole thing.
Yeah.
But is there anything in particular that you have heard, or that either Scott's told you or anybody else about Wodapalooza that you're most excited about? I don't mean to put you on the spot there.
No, I just think I'm excited about the overall energy of the place. It's I have a hard time picturing how it's all laid out because I've never been there, but I know there's all these different stages and, there's this sort of festival feel, and, I've been to the games a bunch of times and seen that. But to me, I'm picturing this to be a little bit different. And I'm just really excited to experience the vibe and not have to be working it to experience it. Cause I've worked a lot of places and I know you guys get really stressed out and, rightfully so, you do a fantastic job, but there's a lot of moving parts. And so I'm just thankful I get to go and observe, for my first time.
Give high fives to all your behind the scenes friends.
Right. Exactly. Just be like, hey, do you need anything?
So the highlight last year for me was getting up early in the morning, going over to the park, grabbing a cup of coffee. This year it'll be Paper Street, and going to Bayfront. And I didn't even care what the event was. Just sitting in the stands, looking over the bay, watching people fitnessing and having a good cup of coffee.
That sounds like if I had a choice of how I would want to spend it if I was on your side of things, that would be me. Nothing like a good cup of coffee and being able to chill on Bayside. Yeah, that's at the end of last year, what I try to do every year is on the last day, once everything ends and some of the production start to break down, LEDs and stuff. Typically Bayside's one of them that they touch last because it's kind of tucked away, the one that's on the water, Cat, which you'll see soon.
Mm-hmm.
I just sit up in the bleachers and just overlook the water and just think about what I thought went well. I really try to use it as a time to be excited and happy about what we've accomplished as a team. But then I'm also already thinking about ways to improve for next year. At least that's been my go-to. Sitting there, getting some quiet because you don't have quiet for those really 2 weeks, starting early next week when we start loading in officially. But yeah, so I get a little semblance of that by sitting on Bayside, but I don't get to experience it in the way that you guys get to.
Yeah. Let me ask you this. Are there going to be ropes at Bayside?
There is going to be a workout with ropes on Bayside. It's one of the most iconic shots. If you see, there's always a shot from like the back of Bayside facing the crowd at night. So you can definitely expect that.
So that's something on my bucket list is I would love to have Scott take a picture of me at some point during the weekend. Clearly not during the competition, but climbing a rope on Bayside. That's my wish.
I think we can make that happen.
Okay.
No problem, Kat. You can hold me to that.
Thank you.
If you do the gong, it's a done deal.
Okay. Sounds good. That's an even trade.
There we go. Awesome. Yeah,
I love it. Can we talk a little bit about the programming?
Sure. Yeah, I would love to.
Who's the brains behind that operation and how does that all get coordinated?
Yeah, so we've tried different things over the years, Kat. We've worked with the programming collective on a variety of ways in past years. We've done it ourselves. Like I've taken the reins on it in the past. This year we're going back to our roots, and you'll probably notice in our first workout release video, Guido was essentially doing the announcement. So he is doing the individual and teams program this year for Wodapalooza. So yeah, Guido was the original founder. Again, another person I consider just as highly as Matt O'Keefe as a friend and mentor. Guido really gave me my first opportunity with Wodapalooza when I started as a member, then a coach at P360 CrossFit. And he's gotten back involved. He was, previous owner and founder, and then he exited a couple years ago, but he had still been involved as sort of an ambassador. And this year we tapped him and he was more than willing, which was awesome, to take on the role of programming. So that's been a fun process getting him back involved because he's such a creative programming mind. He has such unique ways of thinking about tests and the ways in which his big thing is, for one, obviously, fair and well-rounded tests, putting on a show. But the big thing is he likes the idea, and we've talked about this extensively, exposing people's weaknesses because he thinks that's part of the fun for the athlete as well, like identifying areas in which maybe they're just not the best prepared that they can then shore up going into the regular season. We've had quite a bit of very fun dialogue on ways in which to accomplish that, given the complexity of Wodapalooza, which he's no stranger to, right? Multiple stages, so many athletes doing similar types of events across the 3 days. It's definitely an animal in its own right, just putting the schedule together with how many athletes there are and how many hours we have in the day, which are not a ton. But he's done a tremendous job, and all those workouts are going to, obviously, we've released one. The idea is for more to go up between today and tomorrow, and then you're going to see the rest. All are going to come out prior to Wodapalooza weekend.
Oh, fun. Okay.
So kind of piggybacking on that, last year, it had terrible weather on Sunday, had to fight through that and still got to end the competition the way it would kind of intended, kind of. Because of that, are there any backup workout plans being put in place ahead of time this year, if that occurs? Or is it still just best to kind of see what's happening and adapt on the fly?
That's a good question, Scott. Yeah, we do have a whole set of contingency workouts whenever there's in the case of weather. It's interesting though, because some events, the way that the schedule is structured is that some divisions are doing them on different stages, the same workout on different stages. And so as a result, for example, Tina Hills, that whole stage, which is small, it's only 8 lanes, is undercover. So for example, if it rains, they're going to be doing the workout as prescribed. But for all the other divisions, there are, again, other than what's on Tina Hills, there are contingency workouts. And the thing is, though, some of it, like last year with Sunday's weather, it was such a bad weather event, that we had to literally get everyone out of the park. We had to completely pause the operation just because of fear of wind. And it was a relatively small period of time to get everything dried off and ready to go. It just took quite a lift on our side. And we had a lot of learnings from that experience too, having to push pause. We had to look, I mean, I'll tell you, I was like extensively involved with the schedule myself of trying to make this puzzle piece fit to make sure that every single team and individual got to do at least one workout on Friday. That means they did 5 total throughout the weekend. And we got a lot of good feedback. I was going to say criticism, constructive criticism, if you will, on how to handle that for the future. And we're coming in much more prepared than even last year in terms of our channels of communication back to the athletes and the spectators, and a plan of attack for if we do need to commit to a contingency, how we're going to go about doing that. The challenge that I'm sure the games we've been faced with is, for example, let's say on Bayside we have 5 heats of the same division. Let's say it's elite, just hypothetically. The first 2 do it as prescribed, but then weather kicks in on the 3rd heat. So just another level of complexity here is, well, we can't have them do a different type of event unless it's a different gender. So it's just trying to weigh the pros and cons of when to activate some of those weather plans, when to just let it ride, when not to. Safety is at the forefront of our minds there. So yeah, but as far as weather's concerned, knocking on wood, I'm a believer that this year there's going to be no rain for the first year in like 10 years of Wodapalooza. January is historically not a rainy month in Miami. I don't know why. It really isn't. It's like on the lower end of if you look at historically over the 12 months. But we tend to just always get whacked with at least a little rainstorm. But I'm hopeful it won't happen this year. So help me make that reality, please.
It's funny you say that, because we hold the Memorial Golf Tournament here in Columbus every Memorial Day, and it is like a magnet for the big thunderstorm of the year. You know, and it's not. Like the end of May is not when we get rainy season in the Midwest. It's just, for some reason, that event is cursed with a rainstorm every year.
No, we got to change dates. We got to move it back. I'm wondering the same about, I feel like Waza is the exact same. It's clear. And then there's just, you see in the forecast down the line that, the thunderstorm emoji, and then it ends up coming, just a little one. But yeah, we're prepared. We're more than prepared. And yeah, I mean, like there's things like, again, rope climbs. You mentioned, Kat, if it's raining and those ropes are up on Bayside and those things get wet, we can't do them. So we've got some good movements in place that Guido has helped us put into action that we'll be fine. Yeah, we'll be good.
Well, I'm super excited about Wodapalooza, but I do want to talk a little bit about, and you bring up Guido, kind of your origin story. Because where I first met you was as an MC back in the old regional days. Mm-hmm. But I read a story on the CrossFit Journal about how you used to have a fear of public speaking.
I still do. That continues to this day. I don't thrive in an environment of public speaking. I think calls like this are different. I feel like I'm just talking to a couple of friends, but yeah, getting in front of people on the microphone, as I'm sure most people's fear, they just go blank. They start to get nervous, and then from there their minds blank when they are trying to find the right words, because they're, oh man, this is nerve-wracking. You can't focus on what you want to say. So I don't enjoy that necessarily. And maybe it's more I don't enjoy the thought of doing it, and then once I do it, it's like kind of overcoming any sort of adversity on the backside. If I felt like I did a good job, then I feel good about it. But every single time, even every single event to this day that I MC, the first heat or the first opening ceremonies, if I have to lead something, I've got jitters. And I feel like I almost have to like ease into it. That tends to be the case. So yeah, that still stands true to this day.
And I read that Guido used emceeing at Wodapalooza as a way to help you with coaching and speaking in front of a class.
Yeah. I mean, I wonder if it was mainly because, I don't know why. Maybe he thought I was just good at coaching. I think the order was more, I was a student at the University of Miami, and I met Noah in the dorms. Noah was another we were both resident assistants in the dorms. We were basically like the the police officer on the floor. Honestly, I feel like people probably I was trying to be the cool one. Noah tried to be the cool one as well, but ultimately we had to do our jobs, and that's in exchange for like room and board and meals. So it was a nice trade.
Could you guys be any more wholesome?
It sounds way more wholesome than we probably really were. I feel like it's deceptive. So me and Noah met,
and you've told me the story. So there's an unwholesomeness part, and where Allison Scudds comes into it.
Yeah, I don't know if I want to.
You can choose to tell that or not.
I don't believe it.
Well, so just to give you the lowdown, I'll give you like the elevator version. So Noah and I met him in the dorms. We were both like the only two that were into fitness that were working within our building as RAs. There's probably 12 of us, and then me and Noah instantly connected because he was into CrossFit at the time, and I was into like P90X and just doing traditional bodybuilding stuff. And he was like, "Oh, dude, you got to come try it." We became close friends. Hey, come try this thing at Peak 360. Me and one other guy that was an RA too. We all went. And I remember the first workout being Ava. So like talk about like a disastrous first, whether it's 5 rounds, an 800-meter run, 30 pull-ups and 30 kettlebell swings. My hands were shredded, but I fell in love. I still remember that as my first workout. And so met with Guido shortly thereafter, and Guido was like, "Hey, dude," I mean, I was a broke college kid, right? Like I was getting my room and board paid for, but Guido basically said, "Hey, if you take out the trash and do a couple things and like spruce up the bathrooms, like you can have a free membership." So that's how it slowly turned into me being a coach there. But as far as Noah is concerned, yeah, this is like super ironic. But so I fell in love with CrossFit through Noah. 6 months into our year, Noah actually left being an RA without going too much into detail on that. He just was focused more on competing, and he was getting really good. And so they hired in his place Allison Scudds as the RA. So me and Allison became friends. Like Allison filled the void of Noah, so we became really close. And then I introduced Allison to CrossFit from that. But during that same time, actually, Noah and I think this is also another reason why Allison got into CrossFit is that we founded the Canes UN. Their mascot is a cane. So Canes CrossFit Club, and it was basically a way to subsidize memberships for college students, and the gym was really close to the University of Miami campus. So it was a really cool thing, and it still exists to this day. And that was like, I don't know, 9 years ago. So fast forward from there, Noah and me continued to be friends. I was still into competing and, went to regionals in 2014, but my role from basically going from coach at Peak, Guido called me up. I remember I was just about to coach class and goes, "Hey, Dylan, I'm here with Steve." That was his partner at the time, and on our wives, and we're just trying to find roles for everybody. The first Waza, I was just a judge. And then this was going into year 2. So this was 2012 or 2013. And he goes, "Hey, like, we need another MC for one of the stages." At this point, we're like 3 months away from Wodapalooza. So me being a terrified public speaker, my mind was on the class I was about to coach. Like, "Sure, man, wherever you need me, sounds good." And as that the class happened and the next couple of weeks started to unfold, I started to realize, what am I getting myself into? I have no idea. I've never done it before. I've heard Guido and some of the other MCs on the mic, which were just like Guido's buddies at the time. But so I got out there, and apparently I did a pretty good job that year because I remember getting a lot of compliments, and I thought everyone was being nice, like, "Oh yeah, Dylan, you did a great job." And one of the other MCs, Lou Calcagno, who was another good friend and another guy that I consider a mentor, he was close with Johnny Mack and another guy that was working beneath Johnny Mack at the Southeast Regionals. And they had asked him, "Hey, we need a backup MC if you're down to do it," to Lou. Lou called me and said, "Hey, dude, I'm down to get in there, but I'm going to recommend you if you want to come as well." And so I was going to go team on Team Peak that year, and we had qualified, the team was going, and I forewent my spot that year. That was 2013, and I went and volunteered as an MC at the games, at regionals, excuse me. I remember being out on the floor, and it was me and Larry Moss, where I met Larry for the first time. What another great dude in the space that's helped me immensely grow from my starting point as a volunteer MC. But I remember being out there. I specifically remember the workout too. It was the 30 burpee ring muscle ups, and I have some volunteer that comes up to me mid heat, like I'm talking about, "Oh, and look at the complement of the overhead squat to the burpee ring muscle ups," and they say, "Hey, that guy over there wants to talk to you. Tap me on the shoulder." And I'm like, "I'm in the middle of the heat." He's like, "No, he needs you now." And I look over, and it's Dave Castro, and I'm like, "Oh no, what did I do?" So I don't know what he wants. I thought, man, maybe he's going to compliment me. I have no idea. But so I go over, and he goes, "Hey, dude, can you not talk about the movements the way you're talking about them? Like just tell who's in first, second, or third." I'm like, just a little, at that time, I'm like a 19 or 20-year-old kid. Like, "Yes, sir." And I got back out there and did my thing. So the weekend goes by, fun as heck weekend. But as I'm leaving, Johnny Mac, as I'm saying goodbye on Sunday at the end of the day, I had to drive back to Miami that night because I was still an RA in the dorms. Gave him a high five and a hug, and he goes, "Hey, I just want to let you know, Justin Berg asked for your number. I don't know for what. Like, I wouldn't get your hopes too high, but just want to give you a heads up. He asked for it. I don't know what it's for." Like, okay, great. So of course, like, I'm driving back from West Palm Beach and I got my phone on my lap and I'm checking it every 2 seconds. I'm like, all right, at some point, like an hour into the drive, it's like a 2.5 hour drive. I'm like, Dylan, you can't expect a call within like an hour of Justin asking for your number, driving back, like, get your mind straight. So I started to relax. And then I hear brrr, as I'm driving back, and I'm like, no, this can't be Justin, this random number. Hello, this is Dylan, and it's Justin Berg, and he's asking me from that first weekend of regionals if, hey, are you interested in continuing to MC for regionals? And I'm like, sure, like, for next year, great. No, he's like, no, I need you for next weekend. And I'm like, let me see. So essentially, fast forward, I ended up doing all 4 weekends of regionals with Larry, with Kikim, and all those folks. And then that year, I was emceeing the games, like just from that first regionals event, and just like a wild ride to then have been able to do the games pretty much since then. I had a couple of years off in between when I was doing stuff with Loud and Live over the games weekend. But yeah, that really, from there, I became, for Wodapalooza the following year, the media director, and then I got more involved in like competition operations, and then I became essentially the only full-time employee underneath Guido. And then Wodapalooza was sold to Loud and Live. They acquired it. We partnered up. Guido ultimately exited, and now we operate the event out of Loud and Live as one of their premier events. They put on a ton of events. They have an entertainment division, concerts and tours, and I'm part of that team. Very lucky to be part of that team.
I have one clarifying question about that, and that is, were you ever a part of the agency side of Loud and Live and Matt O'Keefe? You're nodding.
Yeah. So I was, and I am now. So, I think the only thing that's really changed with Matt's departure is that he's pretty much now, they're managing the athletes outside of Loud and Live, the athlete management portion of the business. But when Matt came on board, that's part of what excited me about his entry, was that we were going to do more than just produce a single Wodapalooza, right? We then expanded into putting together a whole series of events with, Granite Games we then acquired, producing the Madrid Championship, which is still part of Loud and Live's umbrella of events. We had the Mayan Classic that we had announced before COVID, and then West Coast Classic. So that was the events portion. And then we obviously managed the athletes, which was really great as well. And then the third piece was doing marketing services for brands. And we still do that to a large extent. A lot of the brands, let me rephrase, not a lot, but a good number. There's probably somewhere between 5 and 10 of the brands that activate on site at Wodapalooza that are coming to exhibit, that we actually produce their activation for them. So that's part of under my umbrella as well, with our team on the marketing services side that help execute that.
What was your major in college?
It was a double major. So it was exercise physiology and sports administration. So it's a weird turn of events. The coaching, it made sense, right? And it was what I was most passionate about. But the sports administration, I'll tell you, I don't know, from a major perspective, I guess I expected to learn more about sports business. It's very high. I don't know. What did you guys study in school?
History.
Business.
Political science.
Okay. Do you feel like you use those two? I mean, I feel like business, Scott, with you probably, but do you think history, where do you leverage history today, Kat?
I don't. I'm really good at Jeopardy and Trivial Pursuit.
So it will come in handy when you're on Jeopardy.
Yeah. I wanted to go to law school, and then I got sick of school. So I was just like, I'm going to graduate, and I got a job in marketing, and then that's how all this happened.
You can say that again. Sick of school. I can definitely relate to that.
Yeah.
So yeah, those two majors, and then it sort of worked out for me. I feel like I've said this before, but I feel very fortunate. I feel like the journey that I'm on has been largely due to me meeting the right people from a networking perspective that have believed in me more than I believed in myself. And like Guido being one of those, Matt O'Keefe being another, among a lot of other people that have now allowed me to move in the direction that I have, because I don't feel like my degrees necessarily speak to what I'm doing within my professional life.
Yeah, I agree. It's the people you surround yourself with that, help build you up and get you to where you are. And that's so true for everyone, I think.
I agree.
It's funny because of our first 5 celebrity interviews that we did, one of them was Matt O'Keefe and one of them was Larry Moss.
Mm.
And honestly, the Matt O'Keefe interview, got us so many more because it made us legit. And I owe him so much, and, still friends with him today, and so glad for that friendship.
Yeah, Matt's a great guy. Matt's the kind of guy that wants to help lift other people up. I feel the same way about Larry. I feel the same way about Guido. Not about what you can get from someone, but what you can do for them, what you can give to them. I think those guys personify that better than anybody.
We need more women in those roles. Kristen Chandler, perfect person. Like she's one of those women, but I feel like there is a shortage of women who are like that in all the spaces.
You're right. I couldn't agree more. Kristen's amazing, by the way. Talk about someone that I consider. I've talked already about a few people that I feel like are very close friends of mine. There was nobody I enjoyed working with more than Kristen, and her departure to Noble was one that was well deserved because she is so talented. She may be the most talented person I know. And yeah, but I agree. And I think she's going to continue to climb. She's a freaking star, shooting star, in my opinion.
Yeah. And she helps other people too. I find like a lot of women that are in positions like that, aren't open to other women and helping them. I've experienced that myself with, women that I've tried to become like a mentee to. And so not that I have any kind of influence, but I always make sure that I reach out and become that person to other women that are trying to, get into the field. Because the guys are great. And I think just like male energy is a little easier sometimes than female energy to hand down and lift up. But it's just an interesting observation.
It's true, Kat. I think the unfortunate part is that there's not as many women in positions to be able to extend their offering. Like I think that's an unfortunate reality as well. Like I think more people like Kristen and you, Kat, should be at the forefront of some of these organizations and things. I think there's, it's easier for guys because they have more to give. I don't think necessarily girls. I don't know. My perception, and again, mine is different than you. You talk about women lifting up women, so I can't speak necessarily to that. But I do feel like they deserve more opportunity in leadership roles. I don't think I'm speaking any sort of like revolutionary thought there.
Yeah, no, that's fair.
Yeah.
Sorry, I got deep there. Sorry.
No,
yeah, you did.
That's a good thought. Definitely a good thought.
So one of the questions that popped up while we were talking about Loud and Live and your journey through everything was, now that CrossFit has taken over the semifinals, what does that mean for Loud and Live and some of these other events? I'm hoping, and you don't have to answer this, you may not know at this point, but things like Granite Games, they were great before they were a semifinal. And I hope that we get to go back to those days, because those were awesome events for those who didn't make the games to kind of get some exposure, get some experience under the lights. And plus it was a great community event.
Yeah. It's another thing that I think we are still exploring internally, Loud and Live, as an entity, of how we want to proceed with some of those events like West Coast Classic and Granite Games and Madrid. Like all systems go, we've announced dates for Madrid. That's going to be coming in hot. And what a great kickoff to that move from what was in Ciudad Real now to Madrid. That's another event if you guys have not been to, I recommend next year. If you need to take a Euro trip, that's the one. But that aside, some of those other events for sure, like the Max of the World, now the Syndicate Crown, which I wonder if Wilson's still planning on running it. He's part of our team at Waza, but I haven't really been able to catch up with him. We have full intention of keeping those brands alive now. In what way, shape, or form, I think remains to be seen, both with Granite Games. You're right. Talk about like the big events in the U.S. If you had to name them that were not CrossFit affiliated, there was Waza, Granite Games, and then the third one I would say is like Fittest Experiences, and I would also say the MAC. But I think,
yeah.
But I think of like the biggest, like the ones that had the most athletes. I think those were the three, and like the most renowned in the U.S. I can't think of any others. I don't know if you guys can.
No, and I
Green Beret
think
Project Classic soon to be.
Which one?
The Green Beret Project Classic. That will soon to be one of the bigger ones. We're getting there.
Yes.
Yeah, got to get that plug in.
Got to get it in.
And big prize money for the event that it is.
Teams of 3, same sex, $5,000 for RX cash prize.
That's awesome. What's the date?
It is February 3rd through the 5th.
Is that an indoor or outdoor?
Indoor.
Oh, outdoor would be crazy. I don't know. Well,
yeah. It's at the Chase River Front Center in here in Wilmington. It's a giant venue.
That's awesome. How many athletes are you guys expecting?
We're hoping for like 100 teams. We're like halfway there.
Okay. Yeah. Happy to help. Whatever you guys need with that. I'd love to be able to provide any feedback or input, anything I can do to help that be even more successful. That's cool though, coming off just before the open. So I think it's perfectly positioned.
Yeah. And we've got like real sponsors too. Like, Mush is going to be there. Noble's helping us out. RX Smart Gears, giving us equipment for one of the events and all that. So yeah, it's going to be great. Looking forward to it. Second year, so we're just brand new.
Well, you might have just given away what one of the implements was, because when I think of RX Smart Gear, I think of one thing that we're also going to have at Wodapalooza, but I won't say it here because.
No, ours is actually, we haven't released the workout yet, but we're going to use the Zeus ropes.
Oh, okay. Oh, that's great. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. It's either the Zeus rope or the drag rope. Those are the two things that I think would be creative and also painful at the same time.
We're not ready for crossovers just yet. Someday.
Oh yeah, I don't know. I've not been able to master them. I certainly haven't been able to train as much as I would like this time of year.
I bet not.
So one question I have for you is the MCs seem to be a very tight knit group.
Mm-hmm.
With Mike and Larry and Kiki and you. Isn't it in fact that tight knit?
It is. I feel bad because I am one of the historically, and maybe Scott, you've already maybe experienced this, not a great communicator via text or specifically text and then email too. This time of year, especially email gets tough. I try to keep up on my email, but text becomes really hard. So
do you mute the group chat?
Don't tell them, but yes. So I check in every once in a while. I like throw my little, hey, I'm still live, every once in a while, or add a little bit of 2 cents there. But yeah, we have a group chat with all the MCs, and I think there's even like subgroups that I'm not part of, right? Like with the Bella, all the Waza MCs, like I'm not in those groups. I'm in the groups with Mike, Larry, actually Bill, Chase, Chris G. I don't know if you know him. He's also part of like the Central Florida MC, and he's all crew, and he's also part of Wodapalooza in a big way. So yeah, we are really close. Those are another two folks. Like I told you, Larry being a mentor, I consider Mike Richards one of my closest friends, and we talk at least once a week. We're in touch with each other. We've sort of become a little bit of accountability partners on fitness, and then also just again checking in with each other, mental purposes too, right? Like especially in today's world. So I'm excited as heck to see those guys. It's a little bit of a reunion for me at Wodapalooza with them, but I have the ability to just give them a high five and a hug and say, have a great weekend and then run to the next thing. But yeah, we definitely are a close group. We look out for each other, but it's not like the good old boys or good old girls club. It's not that at all. Like one of the things you'll know about us, just like you were saying before, Kat, about there's less people, less females that are willing to, but that group there, everyone is willing to give advice to other up and coming MCs. And I feel personally, especially with my background as an MC, of being able to give folks the opportunity to volunteer at our events in some way, shape, or form as an MC, because that's how I got my start, as a volunteer at Waza and then a volunteer at regional. So the group is more than willing. We're not protective of the jobs that we have. We want to give more and more folks the opportunity to be able to step out and give their go on the mic. And to this point, it's actually revealed a bunch of people that were previously, not part of that circuit. I think, again, Bella Martin being one of them. She sort of, was a new person on the scene, and she's thrived.
She's working her ass off.
She's doing great. She's doing amazing. She's putting the work and volunteering where needed and just, again, proving herself. And she's already there. She's definitely already established. It's been great to see her climb so quickly.
There's something comforting, because I've judged events, I've covered events. When you hear Larry, Mike, and yourself and Kiki, and the others, I'm not trying to keep, you're just the people I know off the top of my head. When you hear those voices, it's just comforting at an event. You're at one of the bigger events. And cool. You guys are the people I want to say hi to first when I go.
Yeah.
Mike is one of the funniest people I've ever met in my life.
So kind.
Larry is one of the kindest people and has some of the best stories ever.
Very true.
It's just after Mayhem Classic, I met Larry Moss. That's where I met him at the after party. And he's been one of my best friends ever since.
Yeah, what good people. That's the one thing I wish, the difference between me and those folks is that they are so social in between events. And then at the end of the weekend, like you almost never catch me at an after party. I leave it all on the competition floor, figuratively and literally. So I'm dead. So people probably look at me and they're like, Dylan, like he doesn't seem like a friendly guy. I just am so beat up at the end of those weekends. I don't know how they do it. Like, I don't know how Mike has the ability to be, comedic relief at the end of that long freaking weekend where he's on his feet talking into the microphone all day. And then Larry's stories, I just don't know. I don't know how any of them do it. But it's why I love them and why I think we get along so well, is that we're kind of opposites in that way.
But you are so genuine during the event. Like, you come back to the volunteer break room and say hi to everybody. Like, and that's important. Like, I don't think people realize, like, volunteers need that little, it's a tough weekend for them. Every little bit like that is huge for them.
Yeah. Thanks, Scott. Yeah. I think it's I think I have a unique perspective on some of that because of my background with like event organization, because I do know, I've been on the other side as a volunteer. Those little interactions are huge. And it's so easy over the course of the weekend. You go from being fresh day one, hey, everybody's so happy and peppy. That energy, because it's a long weekend, whether it be, where I saw you last at Masters Fitness Collective, like the energy starts to wane because the weekend gets long for everybody. Early mornings, late nights. So yeah, I think somebody's got to lead the charge and someone's got to try to be that person, as many of us that can. It's infectious. So I try my best. I'm not always perfect at it, that I can tell you. So I try.
Yeah.
Thank you, Scott. Yeah, that means a lot.
People appreciate it though, for sure.
Thank you.
All right, we got to wrap this.
Yep. Last question from me is, what are you most looking forward to this year at Wodapalooza?
There's a lot. I think the biggest thing is that, you said, hey, this is the first year that you're at the helm. And I clarified that, I'm not necessarily at the helm. This is a team effort. And I want to continue to give the team that we have as much credit, because they're the ones in the weeds, in the trenches, getting this thing going. But what I would say that I'm most looking forward to is, in spite of a lot of the change that we've experienced, Matt was a great leader. We haven't had him in the planning process this year. We're working with a new production company. We've made a lot of changes, all with community at the forefront. So in our mantra, we celebrate fitness, community, and life. The middle one is community, but I think over the last several years, we sort of lost focus as that being at the forefront and the most important point. So all of our decisions over the course of the last 10, 11 months leading us to this upcoming weekend is that group: athletes, volunteers, and spectators. And how can we enhance the experience? And I'm just excited to see all of that come to life, because I really believe that we made the changes necessary that are all going to be revealed here in a couple of weeks, that speak to making sure that they leave there feeling appreciated and like their experience was at the forefront of our minds. So I know that's a very general explanation. I think you guys will understand it once you're out there, but we definitely made that our focus, and that's what I'm looking forward to most.
Yeah. Again, we said this off the top, if you have never been to Wodapalooza, it is a must go, must see. You have to be there. You have to experience it. There's nothing else like it in the CrossFit space.
Thanks, Scott.
I'm so excited.
And you're both in. I'm getting you guys signed up for the gauntlet. There's no backing out. The world has seen it.
We're done it.
Yeah. Everybody just send me the videos of my bloopers after it's over, so we can make it a video and get it up on YouTube.
Perfect.
Man. You guys are going to do fine. Both of you are going to crush it. I'm excited.
You're going to crush it.
Dylan.
And we can't wait for you. We're so happy.
Yeah. Can't wait to see you, Dylan, too. So with that, thank you so much for jumping on with us, and we'll see you in 11 days.
Can't come soon enough.
Something like that. All right. Bye, guys.